Hey, tubers, tubettes, various crazy people. Hey, I'm with my buddy and my neighbor Gary, and we're going to. Gary's been kind enough to come on the channel. He recently returned from Cebu City. He took a trip with his wife and two beautiful children from Dumaguete to Cebu, and it reminds me of the camping trip that I went on with my parents one time, where the tent fell down and everything went wrong and the bears ate our food. And so I'm just going to let Gary kind of freewheel it here and tell you his story. But what I do want to preface it with is that Gary has lived and worked in the Philippines for how long now?
About 8 years.
About 8 years.
I lived in numerous different places, including Cebu City, which I was living in 2016, 17.
Okay. So the point I want to make is that he's not just off the banana boat. Okay, he's been here longer than I have. And he's also had experience with living in Cebu. You lived there for about 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, he's also married. Like I said, he now has two beautiful children. They needed to go to Cebu to take care of some business. And so, without further ado, I'll kind of let Gary give you an idea of what the process was prior to going, the plans that he made, and then what the end result was. So take it away,
Well,
Gary.
our purpose of going to Cebu was a couple of appointments we had. One for my marriage visa for the Philippines, I had to complete that. And also for my youngest daughter, we had an appointment at the US consulate for her US citizenship, and to get a passport. So it was an important trip we had to take. And I was actually quite looking forward to it, going back to Cebu and seeing how things are over there. But getting there and back is not so easy.
Now, you have three different ways. I don't know if there's flights there yet or not, but I'm
I
assuming.
believe so.
Okay, so I know that pre-COVID there was 3 ways to get from here to 4 ways really to get from here to there. There's a bus, there's a ferry,
Right.
there's an airplane, or you can drive a motorbike or a car over there.
Yeah. So we decided to drive ourselves over there rather than take the bus. My wife gets sick in the bus, so that wouldn't have worked out too good. Plus, we thought we could make it a bit of an adventure, you know. You've got your own transportation, you can stop whenever you feel like it, and make it a fun trip, and that was the plan.
You know how to make God laugh, don't you?
Yeah.
Tell him your plans. So you had all your paperwork, I'm assuming, because I know you're a real thorough guy.
Oh, very, yeah.
Okay, because you run a business, you deal with China and America and all kinds of stuff.
And
you are organized beyond organized.
And yeah, and I'm used to dealing with people over here, which is why I have to call several times, talk to several different people to try and get the true facts of what you need. And unfortunately, that consistently changes from person to person,
Right.
depending on who you talk to. So I usually find it's important to make several calls and try and get the best facts you can.
So as far as what you had to do at the consulate, you had your stuff together, right?
Yeah,
You did a lot of prep work on that. You had to go back and forth and get this and get that.
Well, I have most of the stuff I
Okay.
could download
All right.
and print out, but yeah, that was a pretty big file, paperwork.
And the other thing with your marriage deal, you have that organized.
Well, there wasn't much to
Somebody's there.
crazy Philippines. I had already gotten my visa, my 13A marriage visa, but you can't complete the application as such. Well, yeah, but you also need to get the ACR card, which is important to get. But you can't get the card until you go to Cebu, where you have to get the photo capturing and have your fingerprints taken. Why they can't do that in Dumaguete, I don't know.
Yeah, that's called biometrics.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I used to have to go to Cebu. I've only been to Cebu a couple of times, once by myself and once with May, I think. And both times was to go to immigration, simply because I wanted what was called an exit clearance, so I could take a trip out of the country. I've been here over 6 months. That's one of these things you got to get.
Yeah.
And instead of being able to just bounce down to our local immigration office, no, you have to go to Cebu to get that. So that's kind of on the same train as to what I had to do as what Gary had to do.
Right.
He had to go to Cebu just to complete some knucklehead things,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
With your 13A visa.
Right.
And then the other deal, down at the consulate, the point I'm trying to make is you had all your stuff together.
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you need to go from Dumaguete to Cebu? What was it, like a medical clearance
Well,
or something?
this is why we chose. I've been looking for an opportunity to travel there for a few weeks now, as you know. But
Yeah.
they've been quite strict on the requirements to go there with the testing and all that. And I certainly didn't want to do tests to go there and have to do tests to come back, and for the kids and all that. But we got a window of time where they changed the requirements so that going to Cebu, they only required a medical certificate, which you'd think is fairly simple. I guess it wasn't too bad, but still a couple of days of talking to people and trying to get the correct information. And but we got the medical certificates, no problem. And that's pretty much it, all we need to go there.
And you did like all your due diligence of double checking, triple checking.
Yeah.
For to go for here it is. I don't have to be quarantined.
Right.
I don't need to have
Right.
a vax card.
Well,
I don't need this.
this
I don't need
is
that,
what
right?
was, yeah, this is what I double checked on, triple checked on, was for coming back. That was my concern.
I remember that. Yeah.
Really worried about for the kids. I did not want them to be swab tested. And thankfully now the rule is if a child is under 10 years old, then only the parents need to be tested. And the other thing was I wanted to do the antigen test, not the RT-PCR test, because not only is it a lot cheaper, you get the results quickly, so it's easier to plan your trip coming back. And so I called several times on that to confirm that that's all I need to come back, is the antigen test, also along with a barangay certificate, basically the place that you live. They have to give you a letter accepting you back, which you have to submit. That along with the negative test, and you submit these documents online, and you obtain an approval online. They call it an S-Pass.
S-Pass.
Yeah.
So that's what the S-Pass is that you've got all these things done.
Yeah, you're supposed to set up an account online, S-Pass. Put all your information in there. You need a phone number, email, and set up an account. And then as soon as you get your documents and you're ready to come back, upload them, and they're supposed to give you approval. They say within 24 hours. They're usually pretty quick on getting your approval once you've got the documents.
Okay, cool. So actually, just to clarify, it was a lot simpler just going from Dumaguete to Cebu.
Oh, it was.
You just needed this medical thing. Right?
Yes, just a medical certificate where you just go down, they ask you a bunch of questions, including your education level, which I thought was very strange.
Okay.
What that's got to do with your health, but anyway. Ask you a few questions, take your temperature, and that's it.
All right, so you got your medical certificate. Was that just you and the wife, or the
No,
kids?
everyone, the kids
Kids,
too.
everybody.
Yeah, we
Okay.
all need one.
And you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, just to
Yes.
clarify. So
Correct.
get a visual of the trip with the car with the kids, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of cars, what kind of vehicle do you have?
It's an M-Core Baja, and it's known as a tuk-tuk over here, the old 3-wheel thing.
Where you sit like a motorbike.
Yeah. Well,
In the front, but you
yeah.
sit up a little more, but it is a motorcycle type of thing. In a way, yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have a steering wheel.
No.
Okay, so I call that a motorcycle.
It's actually, it's quite comfortable, really.
No, I'm not saying it's not comfortable, but just the setup is you go like this,
Yes.
right, to gas it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the kids and the wife get to sit in the back
Yes.
and in the lap of luxury. Okay, well, you do all the work up front.
Exactly.
That's my point.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a picture of that in the thumbnail, with his red
thank you.
tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
And you guys will be able to get a beat on what that looks like. So here's the drift, is that going from Duma to Cebu is relatively simple at the time that you went. I don't know what's happening today, God knows.
Yeah.
But you needed this medical certificate, and that was that. And then on the way back, you are going to need this S-Pass, and you are going to need the test, okay? And that's
Yes.
time sensitive.
Yes.
And you were aware of that.
Yes.
Okay. So you went to the Waterfront Hotel
Waterfront Hotel and Casino.
and Casino.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so you how many times did you call the good old Waterfront?
Well, I called them twice.
And
Yeah, and wanted to just check, because I got the kids and make sure there's no restrictions on the kids being able to use the swimming pool or any other thing. And I said, no, everything's fine, no problem. Great. Booked my room, paid for it, and we're excited to go.
okay, so here we are. Now it's the morning that we're going to leave, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any issues as far as getting to the ferry?
No, driving
No?
to the ferry from here is about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Go to the ferry, hand the medical certificates over, police officer there, army stamps, everything. Go, pay for your ferry ticket, drive on, and wait for the thing to depart. And
Perfect.
Going over there just took about a 30-minute wait and about a 30-minute trip to get to the other side.
And that's in Santander, Cebu, right?
It's Santander, yes.
Santander, okay.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
we looked at a map and it said about 4 hours.
yeah, it should be.
Should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did it take?
About 7 hours.
About 7 hours.
Yeah.
That was due to...
But that was including a stop for about 45 minutes.
Okay. You got little kids with you, so I
Yeah,
figured you're
yeah.
going to have to make some stops for snacks and, someone's always got to pee at some point in
Right,
time.
right.
And then there's going to be the typical mess ups on the road.
Yeah,
And there's
yeah.
going to be a carousel crossing or God knows what. But you made it to the hotel.
Yeah, yeah.
And were you tired?
And let me tell you, the trip, we were looking forward to the trip, and after departing the ferry, we were driving for about an hour, and it was beautiful scenery
Yeah.
over there. Really, really nice drive for about 1 hour, and then it turns to shit.
Really?
Yeah, really quickly. Suddenly the scenery of the ocean, all that's gone, and it's just a bunch of roads that are being worked on. I mean, roadwork everywhere. So you're having to constantly stop because let people come through the other side and they let you through.
One of those deals where you stop for a while and the other side goes.
Yeah, so
and then they let you go.
Right,
Okay.
right. So really hard to get, moving, cruising at a speed like it's 60. I was hoping to cruise at 60
Yeah.
kilometers an hour, and that just wasn't going to happen. Anyway, so we dealt with driving through all this roadworks for a couple of hours, and then when we started hitting the city outer limits, then we started seeing the traffic. And honestly, I thought the traffic would be a lot lighter than it was, but it was not particularly good. And I think the last was it like 30 kilometers? It took 2 hours.
Wow. So you're hitting traffic.
Yeah, and they got these. I forgot about traffic lights, because in Dumaguete we don't have any. So I kind of got used to driving without traffic lights and forgot how miserable they are in Cebu, especially because they have these lights where they literally stop for like 3 minutes and have this counter that says 180 seconds, and you got to sit there and watch the thing down, hope to get through to the next light.
Oh, wow.
And you get through that one, then you got another one, then another one, then another one. So that was pretty miserable the last couple of hours of the journey, and driving the tuk-tuk, like a motorcycle,
Right.
in this position, you start getting pain back here,
Right.
So I was getting pretty uncomfortable. So I was actually looking forward to settling and getting into the hotel and taking a rest. So
All right, so finally you made it to the hotel.
yeah, we were so happy to get there.
Dug through you're dead tired.
Yeah, so
Kids are hungry.
we
right?
made it.
You're
Yeah,
hungry?
we're hungry. Oh yeah, tired, hungry.
Kids are tired, they're squirrely. They're
But-
1 year old, 3 years old.
Right,
Your
right.
wife's an angel.
Right.
She's always smiling.
Oh,
Nothing
she is.
seems to bother her.
Yeah, so we were so happy to get there and thought just go check in, go rest, go get some food, and everything's great. So I went to check in, and first thing she asked me said, "Oh, can I have your vaccination card, please?" Excuse me? Your vaccination card? I said, I didn't know I needed one. She said, yes, it's a requirement. If you've come from outside of Cebu City, you're required to have a vaccination card. So, well, I'm sorry, I don't have one. So, well, how about a negative RT-PCR test? We can accept that. I said, well, I don't have that either because no one told me I needed one, and of course I don't have one. She said, oh, I'm sorry, these are the requirements. I'm usually a pretty calm person. I don't raise my
No,
voice.
you are.
I kind of, I kind of was getting a little irritated at this point. I paid for the room. I called twice when I came here to verify requirements. No one mentioned anything about this,
This is just the hotel's requirements.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. She seems to think, I think it's for all the hotels in Cebu City. If you're traveling from outside the Cebu City limits.
But when you talk to them twice on the phone, once to get information, once to book the room,
Yeah.
nobody
No.
bothered to mention this to you.
No.
Okay.
No, nobody mentioned it. So she was being a bit bitchy, and so that made me a little not so pleasant. So I started raising my voice, and all right, I was yelling and maybe cussing a little bit too. Anyway, it went on for a few minutes until I refused to leave. I said, I'm not leaving. I paid for this hotel. I am staying here. I got 2 babies here. We're hungry. We're tired. I'm not leaving. Anyway, she eventually went, talked to somebody, came back, said, "Oh, we'll accept your medical certificates," and they let us check in.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
It's very surprising. I had no idea.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. And anyway, so got up to the room, dropped stuff. Okay, now we're hungry. We want to go
Now
eat.
we're hungry.
Of course, waterfront hotels, big hotel. They had a lot of restaurants there, which are all closed except for one, of course.
All closed. Double for one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and not really an extensive menu for children. So I asked them, where can I get some food for the kids? We're hungry, And they said, "Oh, just walk across the street. It's there's a place called IT Park, and there's a lot of restaurants there." And they said usually kids are not supposed to eat in the restaurants, but normally if you're eating al fresco outside, they may let you. Okay, so we walked across the street, 15-minute walk across the street, carrying the baby, hungry, tired, and I think I walked around for an hour plus, going from restaurant to restaurant, being turned away, saying no, sorry, absolutely no kids. And it got pretty late. I mean, late for us, 7:30. Kids hadn't eaten, so we gave up. Said, "Screw it, go back to the hotel, eat whatever they got there." So that's what we did. Got some food, wasn't particularly great, but ate something. Went up to the room, washed, slept. Great, day over.
Day over.
Which was half good, and the second half was pretty damn miserable.
Yeah, well, I guess the stuff that driving was, you had no control over.
No.
I mean, that's part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
But what I always took exception to, when you told me this story a couple of times before, because I wanted to hear it twice, if not more than that, is just the way the hotel acted.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, man, don't they have any empathy? I mean, here's a guy that is driving, 8 hours with 2 little kids. Apparently, the guy on the phone or the woman on the phone that you talked to had to know, because you were talking about little kids, and you were making sure that they would accept this, accept that. Yes, sir, no problem. Come on down. Welcome to the waterfront. And then he never mentioned to say, by the way, make sure you bring your vaccine card or your negative test, because that's what the hotels do.
Right.
So it's like there's never any way that you can interrogate these people too much, when they're looking for information. It's just, you almost have to invent something to find out what the problem lies beneath. But you survived it, thank God. Okay? They relented.
You'd think they'd be very welcoming, because they don't have any frigging guests. I mean,
they got no business.
There's nobody there. So, yeah, I was surprised. But, just their attitude.
Yeah.
It turned out, just it seemed like most people around Cebu seem to be walking around with this kind of attitude. I don't know, maybe this last couple of years has really got to people that are living in the city, which I can understand somewhat, because I was living in Manila through the beginning of this pandemic, and that was really miserable with their restrictions and their rules, and very different from living out more in the province.
Sure.
Over here. So the attitude of people I found to be very different from what I was expecting. People just seem to be walking around broken spirited, almost like
COVID fatigue, I call it.
the COVID fatigue. They don't seem, they seem a little more paranoid about the virus over there. I notice everybody's got their masks up over their nose, and they're just going about their business, and doesn't seem to be any joy,
That's a shame.
which I do experience here.
That's a big difference, huh?
Oh, it's a huge difference, yeah.
But when you lived in Cebu for 2 years, that joy was there, right?
Absolutely. It was,
I mean, everything was rocking. You had the big malls and everything,
yeah.
And there were bands, and there were every kind of venue you could imagine. And then you come back and you were excited for the visit, because that's probably the image you had in your head, even though you knew it would be subdued.
Right.
But
right.
didn't you have, like, the day two, you went to immigration, and it
Actually,
was,
no, day two,
you just took off?
no, day two was the biometrics.
Oh, the biometric.
Yeah, but that was pretty simple. So took care of that, and it was a pretty uneventful day.
Good. But that was task number 1 of 2.
Yeah. Anyway, so we
And
thought
that got completed.
after we did biometrics, thought, okay, we got a free afternoon, could enjoy swimming with the kids or something in the pool. Of course, the one time it decided to rain out there was when we wanted to go swimming. In fact, it actually started to rain just as we walked. As soon as we walked around the pool, down came the rain, and hey, you know, we're going to get wet anyway, so we still swam for an hour in the rain, but it wasn't as pleasant as it could have been. And then, of course, we had the problems with getting food all day long and evening,
And that's because of the kids.
and yeah,
That was the primary thing
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
blocking you from
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
into any restaurants.
exactly.
And you had a very smart idea. You saw, I think I saw
You know,
another foreigner, and you
I-
said, hey,
I-
where do you go to eat around here?
I saw some people when we walked around that had children, and yeah, I was asking them, has anybody had any luck finding anywhere to eat? And I did actually find a place. It was a Korean restaurant where they had private rooms, and they allowed us to go in there because nobody can see us in there. So we did get to have a Korean meal, which was nice.
Okay,
So not all bad.
all right.
The real fun day was the immigration day, and the day that we wanted to prepare to come home or get our test done and everything.
Okay,
That was not a pleasant day.
what happened there?
Well, we had an appointment early in the morning at the consulate. Again, nothing I didn't expect. I expected that to be miserable because, you know, you're going to be hanging around in the consulate place waiting for several hours, and it was about 4 hours. I think we ended up stuck in this place with the kids. So when the kids, you know, get irritable after a while.
4 hours with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
consulate.
and they don't let you bring any cell phones or anything in, so you can't
Did you
play
bring
videos.
snacks or anything?
They don't, you know, they can't bring anything.
Nothing.
No. So anyway, it dealt with it. Was expecting it. It's fine. So anyway, as soon as we completed that, which went well, by the way.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That's the good news.
yeah. No, the reason we took this trip, the appointments, everything, they went well. So mission accomplished, as you say.
Right.
That's great. So anyway, as soon as we got out of the consulate, my mind was on, okay, I've got to double check, because I like to double check everything. You know, get the test done, get the documents, send them, get my approved pass, and get home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I went on to set up the S-Pass online. And anyway, I asked you questions, where you come from, where you're going, and as I did that, it popped up telling me what requirements I had. And I noticed that it had different requirements for vaccinated people and unvaccinated people. And so I'm not vaccinated, and so it was saying that I have to have an RT-PCR test. I thought, shit, they told me I just need the antigen test. You know, so I'm getting a little panicky. And so I attempted to call Valencia to clarify. Yeah, it took me a while to get hold of someone, but eventually I got hold of someone and said, oh, no, we told you antigen's fine, you can do that. I said, well, it does say on the online that I need the RT-PCR test. I said, no, just ignore that and send us the antigen test. Great, you sure? Yeah, okay, great. So we were happy, go get it done. So then we had to go find a place to get tested, and there was in Cebu Doctors Hospital, there was a place. So we drove up there, and they had a drive-through and a walk-in, so we thought, go through the drive-through. That was fun. We got stuck in the drive-through parking lot for 2 hours, breathing the fumes of the other cars that didn't like to turn their engines
With
off
the
for some
kids.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and so, yeah, that was pretty miserable. Eventually got our test done. Then we had to
Didn't they
wait.
quote you the wrong price?
Oh, yeah. Well, the guard at the front of drive-through, you know, we were asking him, information how quickly can we get the results and everything, and he was telling us it's going to take like 2 days or something unless you pay for a rush test. And I'm thinking, what, an antigen test? And he said, it's going to take 2 days unless you pay extra money and get a rush. Maybe you can get results in a day. And that's not going to work because I want to get out of here.
Right.
Anyway, it is what it is. And he said it was like 2,500 a person, which actually changed when they did the test because they did the antigen test and it was only 960. Anyway, point being, nobody knows what the F they're talking about. Anyway, so we got the antigen test done and got back to the hotel, waited for the results.
Came back negative.
You had to wait 3-4 hours.
3
and
4
then
hours.
they
Okay,
emailed
not 2 or 3 days. But
No.
3 or 4 hours. Okay, so
Then
you
they,
got it.
then they emailed the results, and thank God they were negative because that was also
A concern.
well, it was because we've
Yeah.
we've had an issue with COVID
Right.
positive tests before,
Right.
so I don't completely trust the test, and I didn't, that was my biggest concerns, being quarantined for 14 days with my family in a room. That would have been the
Feel
ultimate
like a
nightmare.
friendly waterfront.
Yeah. So I'm like, anyway, I wouldn't have stayed there. Well, they wouldn't have let me stay there. They'd have taken me somewhere even more miserable.
That's right, a quarantine place.
Yeah.
So that would be weighing heavy on my head too.
Yeah.
Is that what if I come back with a positive and they're just going to quarantine you,
Yeah.
and now everybody's got to stay and everybody's got to pay,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things. It's like, but when it came back negative, it had to be like a dark
Oh,
cloud.
my gosh,
It just
yeah.
went off.
Yeah,
It's
no.
just like some ray of sunshine. Like, okay,
It really was.
we jumped through that hoop.
Yeah.
Now your last hoop is this friggin' S-Pass.
Right, which I then was setting up the accounts, and you got to have an account for each person, even the children. And it's like, because I thought maybe your kids, you could include them on your pass, but no, they got to have their own individual accounts, and apparently they got to have their own phone number too. And I'm like, my children don't have cell phones yet. She's 1,
Yeah.
not ready to have a cell phone. So again, I had to spend time trying to contact Valencia and tell them, well, I can't set up the kids' accounts. We don't have phone numbers for them. So they were helpful. They said, don't worry, just email us the doctors and we'll set up their accounts for them. Great, that's wonderful. So I'm thinking we're just about done. I had to wait. They said it was about 9 o'clock at night before they had everything set up. And then I got an email saying, Lisa, can you email me your vaccination cards? And
But they just finished telling you don't need
yeah, all day, and like the email said that, and my wife looked at it, and we were just absolutely going through anxiety at that point. Like, I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, no one's answering phones at that time, so I just had to reply by email, wait for somebody to answer me. They did reply within the hour, actually. So I had an hour of unnecessary suffering because when they did reply, they apologized and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We did tell you you could have an antigen test, so that will be okay."
Jeez.
So great, thank you. So I finally got approvals at like 10 o'clock at night, and I went straight to bed after that. Thought, great. As soon as I wake up, I am out of here.
Right.
Gonna get out of here.
Right. Right.
Which we did. So
Okay, so you made your escape.
yeah, woke up in the morning. Thought, it's a Saturday, so I was actually thinking maybe traffic won't be so bad.
Right, because Sundays out here are really light. In Dumaguete, it's like 30% of what normal is.
Yeah. So
So how was the traffic?
horrendous. Really, and I think mostly because when we got on one of the main highways, there was some problem. Some big truck had broken down, and so everything was filtering into one lane, and nobody knows how to deal with that kind of situation. So we were sitting, I think, one time like 30 minutes in the car without moving,
Yeah.
And when you're trying to get the hell out of there. it's good.
Right.
Anyway, I'm getting antsy, and maybe I'm changing lanes whenever I can, and I don't know if I did a bad change of lane at one point, but I got up towards some traffic light there, and this traffic cop, I don't know what do they call them, traffic controllers that come out, came running out in front of my tap waving to me, telling me, "Hey, move, pull over." I'm like,
What did you do?
I don't know what I did.
Sure.
don't know what it, actually, you know what I think it could have been?
You said it was the mask.
I think because I have my mask pulled down around my chin, and nobody's doing that. Everybody's got their masks up like that.
Wow.
I really noticed that, not like here.
Wow.
And maybe that's one of their strict rules. I don't know. But I'm thinking, as I'm starting to pull over, I'm thinking, no, I can't deal with this. I got to get out of here. I'm not going to risk getting a ticket and having to deal with paying that and being stuck here for another day. So as I'm pulling over, I look in my mirror. I see the guy is he's just walking. Doesn't have any motorcycle or bike that I can see around.
Yeah.
Screw this. So I
So you did a Bonnie and Clyde on him. He just ran out of Dodge.
maybe that's not the right thing to do, but there's just no way I could handle that. I got to get out of here.
You just goosed it.
I
and
did.
Away you went.
And then we
Attaboy.
got stuck in more traffic, and I'm sitting in the traffic, and we're waiting, and he's taking for somebody to come running up the street. Yeah.
Talk about stress.
It was stressful. I think it was about enough. At least.
There's so many unknowns. You know,
Yeah.
that's what's stressful.
Yeah.
Is that you just don't know. It's like it's better just to have the bad news than wait for the bad news.
Yeah.
You know, it's once you know the bad news, if there is any, then you can deal with it. But anyway, so you finally made the trip home. I
Yeah, and
think
it
took you 8 hours.
8
right?
hours to get back.
An hour more than when you left.
Yeah.
And that was just because traffic was worse.
Because the traffic was bad, but traffic was a little worse, I think, going back, and then we had a longer wait on the ferry. When we boarded the ferry, I think it took an hour and a half or so before it departed, so that took a little longer.
And when you got off the ferry, I don't know where this all takes place. Where do they ask to see the S-Pass and the antigen test? And
When
all
you
that
when you
stuff?
get on the
ferry,
you just on the cell phone show them your approved pass, and they scan this little barcode on there. They scan that. Okay, good.
oh,
Go.
cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got across the ferry, driving home. Of course, we're hungry again.
course.
So I'm thinking, you know what we're going to do is we're going to, if we're going to stop by the local store in Valencia, pick up some food, go home and cook. So we went and picked up stuff, drove home. So happy to get home. Really, I really was appreciative to be home. And wife was just about to start cooking, and then brown out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes later, he came walking up the hill to my house.
Yeah. Yeah, I did actually.
Just unloaded on me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got it, boy. You can do it anytime.
Well, I figured it's better.
Anytime you need a shoulder.
It's better than unloading it on the wife and kids. So I'll just walk up and give him shit. And anyway, I was hoping it would come on by the time I was chatting to you, and it didn't.
Right.
So I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go down. We'll grab some food. We'll just go down to the
Because
restaurant.
we do have a restaurant down the street.
Yeah.
And you went in there and what happened?
No, I drove down there. Finally, as I drove into the restaurant, we got out. Oh, sorry, sir, the kitchen is closed.
But that turned out to be misinformation.
Yes, well,
That's
they
right.
sort of debated it for a while, and I guess the chefs were sitting around the bar, and suddenly I begged a little bit, and they said they'll go and make something, so we got some food, and
I think it's interesting that you go to a hotel that's almost empty and you have to beg them to let you come in and spend your money and stay at their hotel. And then the same thing when you get home. You go down to a restaurant that I got to figure they don't open their doors just to say hi to people. It's there to make money. And they officially close at 7. I know that restaurant.
Yeah, I know.
And you got there at 6, right?
And the sign says they close at 8.
And the place says close at 8.
I know.
And now you're actually kind of like asking these people, hey, can we spend our hard-earned money here in your business? And will you please, do what you're supposed to do naturally?
Yeah.
So.
Hey, one last thing about the hotel, because they hotel and casino.
And casino.
I'm like,
that's right. Didn't you try to go into
I'm
casino?
like, I'm gonna go.
This is a good one.
I'm gonna go walk around the casino, have a look. So I went up there and I didn't. There's nobody in there, of course. And anyway, I said, do you mind if I go look around? So well, you got to go check in. So I went to the place we were supposed to check in. And said, oh, sir, can I have your vaccination card? I said, you've got to be kidding me. I said, I just want to look around. I said, oh, you can't come in without a vaccination card.
Wow.
I said, I guess it kind of explains why there's nobody in there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I can't even take a look. Screw it. Forget that.
How does it feel to be home?
Oh, you know what? I really appreciate where I live right now. And I've, as I said, we said at the beginning of this video, I've lived in several places in the Philippines. Dumaguete, Valencia, whatever. By far the best place to live. You know, for me, for a family, for sure.
Not necessarily for a 30-year-old single guy.
You know, no. But right now, I think even if you're a single guy, I think you're better off living in a place like this than you are even in the city right now. And I'm talking Cebu. There's areas of Cebu. I know people that live there, and other areas that maybe it's not as strict. I don't know, but I mean, just an example. I was walking around the Ayala Mall, which is a pretty famous mall. A lot of foreigners like that place. Used to be a great place to meet girls. You know, I mean, you could literally sit out in the coffee shops there and take your pick of who you want to date. That was then. Now, empty. No one there. I walked around the mall. I was just looking at people, just like drones walking around. You can't tell if they're smiling, still got their masks up over there. Right. Nobody's looking at you. Just a really surreal feeling from living there before and knowing what it was like before and seeing what it's like now. It was really depressing, to be honest.
So
and I'm thinking
that much.
Really depressing. I'm thinking, you know, I was at one point single and living that life over there, and I used to love the place. It was a great place. I was there pretty much every night.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, you know, I really pity the single man right now, if this is what they have to offer, because there's nothing there.
I've always considered Dumaguete to be a very sleepy town because we don't have any nightlife. There's the one place, the Why Not? You know, that's one.
I've never even been there.
It's just a goofy ass, you know, 15-year-old disco.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, it's nothing to get excited about. But that's my point being is that there's one nightlife place here.
Right.
And where Cebu, it's just like endless stuff. I don't know about nightclubs, but restaurants and bands playing and malls and things staying open late and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah.
And I always thought, you know what, for the guys that are coming out here, if you're like me and now like Gary, who's married and just settled down, if you want just a quiet, low-key, low-cost way of living, I think Dumaguete/Valencia is the way to go. And I've always been of the impression that if you're the young guy that wants to come out here either on a vacation or you're retiring early, or if you're an older guy and your primary focus is female companionship, then Cebu, your odds would simply be better because there's so many more people, therefore more females, and a lot of call centers and stuff like that.
Of course.
But so I always said Dumaguete is really not the place to meet women. I mean, even though you can. I met Baby May, but you know, I was here 2 years before that happened, and it wasn't really my primary focus to begin with. But that being said, I don't know. I guess the moral of the story is to live out here, you need to be patient. You have to be diligent. You have to be thorough. And I really think that what helped you and got you through this was the fact that you had lived out here for 8 years, and you already had been there and done that, and you knew that things were going to be slow. And you knew that things were going to be backwards. And you knew that one guy was going to say one thing and another guy was going to say another. I can't stress it enough out here.
No.
If you don't have a good temperament, or if you're a hothead, or you're a guy that explodes easy, you know, just stay home. This is not the place for you. Find another country. But and we're not here to crap you out, but we like to be truthful, you know, on the channel. And that's why Gary's here telling you the truth. And shit happens, and I guess this is a very long video, which is fine because I think it's an important one. Is that the gist of it is that people call this paradise, and I kind of argue with that all the time. And I think some people put way too much of a shine on the dime, if you will, about the Philippines in general.
Yes.
It comes with a bag full of challenges.
It does.
COVID or no COVID, okay? Goes from language to culture to food to just a slower pace, and it's really not for everybody.
No, it's not.
But to me, it's a little slice of paradise. I have found it. I've carved that out. But that doesn't mean that the gentleman or the lady that might be watching out there right now, this is your cup of tea. So, you know, I like to think of this as community service. and just being fair, balanced, just trying to give both sides of the story.
Yeah, and
But I thought that it was an interesting story about how things progressed for this young man as he was trying to just get his wife and 2 kids over to just do what he had to do, which normally is arduous at best anyway, but during the COVID, really did put a pickle into the whole deal.
Yes. Yeah, and I just want to, this is my experience, my opinion. Someone might completely have a different experience, and so
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
my feelings on how Cebu is right now. It's just how I saw it. And let me also say, after living in Manila, which was hell because the quarantine levels there were at the highest, and literally I think for 8, 9 months I didn't leave the apartment. I couldn't. The kids weren't allowed out anywhere. That was hell.
Right.
Cebu's another big city, so I know they're strict. So my point is, where I'm at now, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I love this town. I think it's great for families. And what I really love here is I can take the kids anywhere. Everyone seems more relaxed over here. Not, they kind of ignore the rules. I can take the kids to restaurants, even though technically they're not supposed to go, but nobody gives a crap out here.
Yep.
So you can go to restaurants, we can go to resorts, we can go swimming. I can live a pretty normal life out here, so we feel really blessed and happy to be here. And I think it's right now one of the best places to be.
And I think it's really going to be a little slice of paradise when all this pandemic stuff is finally sorted out.
Oh yes. Yes.
When you stop jacking around with passes and levels and this, again, I know this is going on forever, but we can bounce around here. Even when we were in lockdown, May and I, 2 years ago, we were in our first apartment and we were in lockdown. He was locked down. He was in Manila and he was literally not allowed out of the apartment. You tried to take the baby out to get some air, and they'd send you back.
They would, yes.
Did you have to have like your food delivered and stuff like that?
Well, I could go grocery shopping.
You could
pick
go
up
grocery
essentials,
shopping because it was essential.
Yes.
Yeah, if you had a doctor appointment, it was essential. You
Yeah.
could go. But other than that, you and the wife and the kids were locked in a room together pretty much.
Yeah.
Bouncing off the walls.
Yes.
And that'll stress, that's a testament to your marriage, I'll tell you that much. You survive that, you can survive pretty much anything.
Exactly.
Well, while he was going through that, I was in lockdown here, and me and May would just sneak out and get on the scooter, and we'd just go up the hill because we knew down the hill was the checkpoints. So we'd just drive around, and after about an hour, and we just get some air. We didn't really particularly go anywhere, and there were a lot of places that were closed. We ate at home, but finally somebody would catch us. We just give us their little speech, and we go, "Oh, really? Okay, great. We'll go back home." So anyway, Gary, I want to thank you for stopping by and sharing your horror story of getting from Dumaguete to Cebu.
Sorry if I waffle on too much.
No, not at all. It's a story that I've really been wanting to tell because it's real and it's honest and it's what happens. And like I said, I kind of just relate this to a camping trip that I went out with my parents where just nothing went right. Everything was just a cluster.
Well, some things went right.
Yeah.
I got what I needed to get done.
You got what you needed to get done.
And no one got sick.
No one died. No one got sick.
So,
You accomplished the mission. And when I go back to my camping trip, as bad as it was the story of the night every Thanksgiving, for years forward. So it was like a horrible day or weekend that we had. But then it was something we just laughed and laughed and laughed about every time we got together for Thanksgiving. Remember that time we went camping? So somewhere you find the funny out of it.
Right.
All right, kids, thanks for tuning in. And hopefully we'll have Gary back on. He can give you kind of a rundown on what he thinks as far as comparing different cities and what their pluses and their minuses are. Again, from a guy that's been there and done that. So Gary, thanks for coming on the channel.
Always welcome.
And we will see you crazy people next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.